Welcome to One More Hour, the podcast all about backyard ultras, timed races, and the ultra running mindset of going one more. If you're an ultra runner, a trail or ultra runner curious about the format, or just someone who loves to test your limits, you're in the right place. I'm Jackie Wilson, an ultra marathon and marathon run coach, trail runner, outdoor enthusiast, and backyard ultra expert. On this show, I'll bring you stories, strategies, and conversations with runners, race directors, experts, and more to help you go further, dig deeper, and keep going when everything in you says stop. Thank you so much for joining me for some yards. Let's get started with one more. Welcome back to the One More Hour podcast, your insider's guide to backyard ultras, last runner standing races, timed events, and the mindset of going one more. If you've ever had someone crew you through an ultra marathon, you know that the race doesn't just belong to the person out on the course. There's a whole other race happening back at camp, watching the clock, managing food and hydration, making decisions, reading body language, and trying to figure out exactly what does my runner need without getting in their way. And when the runner is your spouse, I think there's an interesting dynamic there. I've seen it go both ways, where a spouse family member is an incredible crew person, and then on the other side, they don't really want their runner to suffer, and it's really hard to watch them suffer. So today I am joined by Veronica Pardo. She is a runner. She's a chiropractor. She's the wife of Nick Petterson, who you may remember from episode 16 after his run at Summit Backyard Ultra. Since then, Nick just went on a couple weeks ago to win Ode to Laz, earning his silver ticket, and he'll be representing Team USA at Big's Backyard Ultra this October. Veronica has been out there crewing him through both of those races, and she's had a really pretty unique perspective with going so far in these races and what it takes to support a runner when things get really hard and you go for a few days. So Veronica is not just a crew member. She's also experienced on the other side. She has ran various ultras. She's completed a 100-hour race herself. Today, we're going to be talking about all of the things. We're going to be talking about what it takes to be a great crew member, how to support your runner inside and outside of race day, what to know what your runner actually needs, and the emotional side of watching someone suffer for a long period of time. This is an episode about the person behind the runner and the people that keep us going when one more gets really, really hard. So, Veronica, welcome to the One More Hour podcast.
Thank you for having me on, Jackie. I'm excited to be here and talk about my experience and just kind of what I've seen along this journey. And I hope I can share some pretty good insight, and hopefully it's new or different so it can help others too.
Yes, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. And I think just following along your Instagram stories was very insightful to how you crew Nick and what you see. And I just gosh, I have to have you on the podcast just to talk about it, because I think you have a unique perspective and a lot of value to add to the runners who are trying to figure out who they should ask to crew, but then also crew members who are maybe crewing for the first time or crewing a backyard ultra for the first time, and they're like, hey, what is this all about? I just want to learn more. So before we get into all of that, for people who do not know you, can you just tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, so I am, like you said, I'm a chiropractor. I'm also a runner. I did cross country in college. And I've been running since about 7 or 8 years old. So I've always loved running. A big question I get with Nick is, oh, did you start running because of Nick? And I said, no, I've always been in this kind of world. But with Nick, he has just taken it to another level, and he's very curious. And so he used to run soccer in college. And then after college, he went to kind of transition to running. And he got on YouTube. He was learning about marathons, and then he came across ultra marathon running. And so he, just because he's more curious and wants to know everything about everything, he found out about ultra marathon running, and I was still just running 5, 10 Ks trying to do that marathon. So yes, Nick got us kind of into this world, but I've always been there, and I really love running, and I always saw running as an opportunity to travel and just do new things.
Oh, I love that. I love that you had the background of running before meeting Nick, and that it's kind of just evolved into, okay, this is what my running has looked like, and this is what like Nick is kind of inspiring me to think more about and maybe explore different avenues of running too.
Yeah, I never thought we'd be doing this at all. It's cool.
So how did you and Nick meet? Did you meet in school?
Yes, we
Okay.
met in college. It was his last semester there. He's 2 years older than me.
Okay.
And so we've been together for 10 years in December, and
Okay.
we're celebrating our third wedding anniversary in October.
Awesome. Awesome.
Mhm.
Is that before or after Bigs?
It is right in the middle.
Oh my
So
gosh.
Big starts on the 17th, and our wedding anniversary is the 21st of October.
Okay.
And I have been trying to think of something like, I don't know if I'm going to bring a cake. I want to do something so special on that day.
Yeah, that will be so much fun. It'll be fun to see what you come up with too.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about before we get into the backyard and the crewing space. As a chiropractor, how does your professional background, your knowledge, influence the way that you approach running and recovery and races?
Yes. So we have the same education, Nick and I. And so it's really helped us in kind of knowing the body. We understand what is muscle or what could be worse, like what is about to be a tear or something bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really been a really big advantage into our recovery and knowing to, okay, we need to scale it back, or okay, like this is fine. We can keep pushing, but maybe we need to add additional strength training or something like that. And then also just having a general understanding of nutrition. That's been really big for me. I really like nutrition and how that affects just like inflammation within the body, which
Mm-hmm.
is, during just massive ultra marathons, you're exposing your body to so much inflammation throughout the whole time. And that's what I learned really, really early on, just being in around the crewing. And so learning how to have just, we still eat kind of all foods. Like we just celebrated like National Chicken Wing Day.
Oh, fun.
So we still do eat like all foods, but just
Mm-hmm.
prioritizing like lower inflammatory foods and just eating whole foods as much as possible at home, I think really builds a nice base to just how we're able to train and stay healthy during the training block so we don't have any surprises with, as we start to increase mileage or something like that.
Right, right. Yeah, absolutely. So thinking about the races itself and the training, how are you supporting each other in your training and then in Nick's races and in the races that you're choosing to do, um, from a partnership, right? Because you have all this knowledge, but both of you are also out there as runners. So how are you supporting each other through it all?
Yes, so a lot of it has to come back to the home life balance. We do a lot of runs together, which is great. So Nick definitely runs a lot more than me and higher volume throughout the week. And so, but he'll kind of do his thing first, or maybe we'll do it together and then he'll just add some more later. So that definitely makes it a lot easier. And then also like just helping with general like household chores. I feel like that's really helpful and just kind of understanding there. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I'll take on more, sometimes he'll take on more, just kind of depending on what's going on. But I feel like that's like we're really cohesive in that sense. And then also I feel like that's very reflective in our kind of when we show up to races too.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, this is your day. Do what you need to do, and then I'll support you in the background, kind of how we need to. And I never feel like I'm doing it all. Like I don't feel like that. So I feel like we have just like a really good understanding, and I feel like we're really cohesive in how we operate, which is easy. And I know I feel like we've just evolved because of kind of how long we've been together. I
Yeah.
know it's not the same with every relationship or couple. So,
Yeah. Well, and it also helps to have that background of nutrition and the background of running to kind of already understand, like, okay, Nick is ramping up his training, but knowing in general, like what you're looking to do and what needs to be done to support that performance too.
yes, yes, yes. Because Nick, especially when it comes to nutrition and food and getting more calories, because Nick also has an understanding, he'll look at labels differently than how I look at labels. And
Okay.
he's looking at kind of what's a bigger, like, bang calorie wise and kind of the same package. And
Yeah.
so, like, okay, he's kind of taking care of himself in that way. It's not like I just have to constantly feed him more. So he's
Right.
also very smart with things too, which is good that I don't have to take on the big responsibility. Like, are you getting enough? Are you okay?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So let's talk about crewing. You crewed at Summit last November, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you just crewed a couple weekends ago at Ode to Laz. Have you crewed all of his races?
Most except maybe like two or three due
Okay.
to other
Okay.
stuff. Hmm.
So take us inside crewing because some people have experienced crewing a backyard ultra. Some people have only crewed ultras, like point to point races. Some people have never crewed and they're looking to support someone. So what are you actually doing while Nick is out there running?
Yes. So I am kind of refilling things if I need to. I'm making his nutrition up. Um, I'm making sure whatever he wants to do next is already prepared, whether that's changing shoes, clothes. Yeah, I'm just making sure everything that he might want or like making sure his charge, like anything that needs to be charged, is ready to take on that charge or has been charging so he can take it out like a headlamp. If he wants sunglasses, I'm prepared with kind of sunscreen and kind of first aid if he needs to. So there's a lot of different components that you just kind of have to be ready for, and
Mhm.
that's kind of what's happening in that time where while he's away.
Yeah. So as a runner, runners can be very spreadsheet oriented and routine oriented, right? And then there's also people who are very laid back and really just want to go with the flow and feel how what they need in the moment. Where does Nick lay on that spectrum?
We are both very laid back.
Okay.
We have a general sense of 12 hours, and we'll
Hmm.
kind of do that like AM, PM shift.
Okay.
And those are transitions for us. But so those are kind of strict times of like treating that like morning and nighttime.
Hmm.
But everything else, depending on like when he wants to eat, or what he wants to eat, kind of varies. It's not like needs to hit this every hour or um, there's no like outline. And that seems to work at this point. It might change in Tennessee. We'll see. We really need to kind of debrief and talk about that,
Hmm.
especially with kind of different roles and kind of the crewing too, and how many crew members you can have. So
Yeah.
small things that we'll need to look at. But right now, that's how we operate. Very flexible, but we kind
Hmm.
of do a little structure at the ends.
How much give and take is there with that conversation of um, Nick telling you what he wants versus you giving suggestions based on what you're observing or what you think based on what you've seen him take in or do?
Yes, yes. So based on kind of what he needs, like he likes to have food just about every time. So I'll recommend him like, do you want yogurt or applesauce? Kind
Yeah.
of they're similar, but they're different.
Hmm.
Flavor is different. Or it's like, do you want solid food or do you want something cold? Something like that. So I'm giving him very like two options. So he's giving me feedback of like, this is what I want to do. Sometimes he'll tell me directly, like, this sounds really, really good. I'm like, okay, let's do that. Or he'd be like, something cold sounds good. So I'll see what we have. But that's how it goes. I'll give him so he doesn't get that decision fatigue.
Yep.
It's about
Yep.
two options
Yeah.
and then he'll choose.
So I saw during Ode to Laz he was eating snickerdoodle cookies. Did you
Hmm.
make them or did Nick make them?
He made them.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. They
Hmm.
looked amazing. So I was just
Yes.
very curious about that. I was like, that actually sounds pretty good during an ultra.
Yes, he's actually learned to love to bake.
Okay.
Baking cookies is fun for him, but it's funny, we typically do have some like sweet option, like going back to the nutrition part, trying to keep snacks kind of homemade or kind of low inflammatory.
Yeah.
So we've had blueberry muffins at races. I made baklava at a race before. I really want to make cinnamon rolls because I did that at another race he crewed at, and I was like, wait, cinnamon rolls sounds so good. So I'm thinking about doing that in October too.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. Anytime that I hear someone talk about cinnamon rolls during a race, I always think about during Cocodona, they talk about the cinnamon roll waffles, and my brain just
Mm,
always goes to those.
yes, no. Oh, I was like, oh, that sounded really good when Nick did it, but I don't think he wanted it.
So, what are some signs that you're looking for when Nick's coming through each loop? Um, for something that maybe needs an adjustment before something really goes wrong.
Yeah, what I was looking at was because we were expecting the weather to be a little bit cooler and it was really warm.
Hmm.
So I was just looking at how damp he was, like if he would want a fresh shirt or even like going into the nighttime, I was like, hey, you're a little damp. Like, do you think something like long sleeve, like wicking would be helpful? So just making sure he's comfortable, small things like that.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Can you tell when Nick is struggling or when he's uncomfortable?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
Does is it visible to someone who doesn't know him?
Um, I would say yes,
Okay.
but I would say it's probably different. Um, and kind of the solutions are how we would help because, and that's just coming with knowing Nick or knowing your runner.
Right.
Because I've seen him break down so many times and I see how it breaks down. You
Hmm.
know, I know when it's early and then I know when it's bad. And he was starting to have like thigh tightness at Ode, and he um like I knew it wasn't to a level of severity because I would hear it. I would hear it way more. And that's kind of how I know. Like if it's constantly an issue, I would hear it. But if it's like, oh, I feel tight, it's like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's subtle, but I can tell the difference when it's an issue or still just like a non-issue.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So I remember him telling me um, during Summit, he had mentioned some knee stiffness or
Hmm. Hmm.
swollen. And he said that he brought it up to his crew and said, "Hey, like, is this a problem?" And he's like, "My crew told me don't worry about it, or this is what we're gonna do." How do you diffuse those situations where the brain is looking for an out? The brain is looking for like, how do I what is gonna like allow me to just be done and relax. So how do you diffuse that so that it's not a big deal?
Yeah, and so that goes back to our chiropractic training too. It's like asking those questions. Is it sore? Is it tight? Does it feel scary? And if it doesn't feel scary, keep on going. Mhm. And so it's kind of a harder like, okay, you're good. You're not going to injure yourself. So it's like
Hmm.
just keep on going.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So based on those first two questions, is it sore, is it tight, what does that tell you? Like, what does soreness tell you versus tightness?
Well, they to me it's both kind of the same, it's more
Okay.
muscular based. But it's like, okay, can we activate it? Or, if it's sore, it's like, okay, that makes sense because you're doing the same repetitive motion. So it
Hmm.
can do something kind of to counteract that soreness.
Yeah.
It will help preserve his legs a little bit more.
Hmm. So how do you balance wanting to help Nick with knowing that ultimately he has to run this race himself, right? Like, you're
Mhm.
there to support him and help with whatever you can at camp, but you can't support him out on the course, and he ultimately has to run these loops every hour. How do you balance that?
Um, just kind of like understanding that, it's his race and that he's, what, and that's the biggest thing too, is just like whatever he does, whether it's 4 yards, 40 yards, 70 yards, it's ultimately his race. And it's just like we're always going to be proud of him no matter how far or how little he does.
Hmm.
And that's kind of it, just kind of understanding and having that mindset. It's like I'm here for however long it needs to be. So I don't really know if it's as much of a balance, but just kind of a mutual agreement that this is what we're doing for the next few days,
Yeah.
and just kind of enjoying the journey,
Yeah.
no matter if it's a hard journey or a smooth sailing journey.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. One interesting question that came up with that comment. I hear a lot of runners talk about feeling guilty with not going as far in their race as they expected and having this crew that traveled far or dedicated time. Like some of these races, you're taking Monday off of work and Tuesday off of work. What advice do you have for the runner who feels guilty for asking someone to help them, whether they're like, I just don't want a crew because I don't want to feel bad, or they have asked a crew and they feel bad for not going as far as they expected, and letting their crew down even though they really haven't.
Yeah, so I would say to Nick, like, you're not wasting my time. I'm excited to be out here. I get to be in the outdoors and around a community that I love to be around. There's
Hmm.
friends in the area, so it's worth my time as well. And then also knowing that I get to do things that are just different. And so it's like as a runner, I mean, I know I'm very closely related to Nick and my relationship, but so as someone who is just helping us out, also hoping to make sure it's a great environment for them too, by providing
Hmm.
them with anything that they need and just making sure their experience feels worthwhile too.
Yeah.
Um, because as kind of Nick's crew, like I don't want them to feel like, wow, that was like a waste of my time, you know? So it's just kind of just making an environment that's exciting to be around.
So what's the difference between maybe encouraging someone and putting pressure on them to keep going?
Yes. This is something I've been trying to find my style of approaching Nick, because it's hard for me because it's kind of been normalized for people to go far, and it's not normal.
Yeah.
And Nick makes it look so easy, and I need to take a step back. Like, no, his body is actually hurting. So at Summit, I was trying to take this more compassionate, like, you've done so great. Like, we're all proud of you, sweetie. I was trying to take a
Yep.
very compassionate, but I was like, no, I need to go back and be more direct and just kind of like, we are proud of you, but I know you have more to give, you know? And so, and I think that looks different for everyone.
Hmm.
And I feel like different runners need different types of support too. But
Right.
I know Nick, I feel like we had that conversation and at Summit, like, I don't want to say like I feel like I let Nick down, but I think he heard that people were proud of him no matter what he did,
Hmm.
that it gave him kind of the green light to slowly kind of cause like put an end to that. And so, well, we were here at Ode. It was just like, okay, I'm no matter what happens, like we need to keep pushing. We're all here, and we know we're gonna be proud of him regardless of what happened. But just trying to make sure he was focused and comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. Does that um tone change throughout the race, or do you keep it the same?
I want to say I keep it the same. Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever been worried about Nick continuing on when he hasn't been worried?
I would say no.
Ooh, that's awesome.
Yes. But I feel like Nick and I have such good confidence in each other. And we're very big proponents of not telling people that they can't do something.
Hmm.
So it's just like, I trust your judgment, and he's smart. So
Yeah.
I feel confident in kind of letting him push himself. Hmm.
Yeah. So besides kind of what we were just chatting about with how you decided to go back to how you talked to Nick from Summit, what else was there anything else that you guys reevaluated and decided to switch up between Summit and Ode to Laz?
Um, it's both of these races were extremely different because Odalaz was out of state.
Yep.
And so whereas Summit it was like an hour and a half drive away, or 40 minutes even, it was very close. And so I would say we were just not even in the right mindset at Summit because we treated it a little bit too casual. And so like there were things that we left at the house because like, oh, we can just come back and forth to the house as we
Hmm.
need to. And then so it's like when your state's away, you have to be prepared. You have to take everything that you might need or want.
Yep.
And there were some things that we purchased and that we just really couldn't fit in our car either. So there were little restrictions too. But I would say our how we set up camp was way different. Not way different, but we had a lot more resources because we were like, this, we're going for gold with this one
Yeah.
because at Summit it was rainy and it was miserable. And we had a tent, but we didn't have any walls. Like all we've
Okay.
been using
Yeah.
are tarps. And that was fine enough, but we were like, no, we're gonna do it right. So we had the tarp still, so all we needed was the walls. And so having that enclosed structure, night and day, that was incredible. And then we did not have a tent. We didn't have a tent at either of them. So, and usually we do have a tent. And that's usually where we sleep. But
Okay.
we got hotels in Michigan, and so Nick just got really good sleep, whereas Nick drove himself from Summit here 45 minutes. So he probably had to wake up a little bit earlier than he would have wanted to.
Hmm.
So really small things that really add up that you don't think about, or we try to be so flexible and kind of go with the flow.
Yeah.
When in reality, if you want to give it your best, you should also treat it with your best. So small things that we did kind of change, but probably we should be doing right from the start.
Yeah. Well, and it is so hard, right? Because you have to learn how to adapt on the fly.
Mhm.
Anything can happen in these races. Anything can happen before the race too.
Mhm.
So to have a plan, but also allow for that flexibility is so important too. So it's hard to lock in to something when you want to be able to adapt.
Yes, and I would say that's like a really good skill that we have. We're very flexible, and we don't fixate on plan A. If plan A is out the window, we just kind of have to pivot. We can't even dwell on it and be like, oh, what if that happened?
Yeah.
We just kind of have to keep going. And so I think that is like a really good skill that we have.
Did you learn anything new about Nick as a runner during summits that gave you even more confidence going into Ode to Laz?
No, I wouldn't say there was anything too new I learned about Nick. Um, I feel like it was more just the self-reflection of how I need to work for Nick. In the sense like, how am I going to talk to him? Because I want to be encouraging. I also still want to be soft, but I don't want to be too soft.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because I think that was a really big, I feel like differentiation, because Nick's ability was strong, and then also his success at Ode was more of his training. I think that the training that he had preparing for it, I think, was really essential. Um, and so just kind of going back to how we were and that I think that's just who we are truly. So it worked, and you can't, you know, don't want to, what's the saying, like, don't fix something if it ain't broke.
Yep, yep.
Hmm.
So let's talk about crewing itself. Like we've
Hmm.
talked a lot about, you know, everyone thinks about the work that the runner puts in for the race, but how do you as a crew member prepare for the race? Because you're committing to a lot, especially when I don't want to say there's this expectation, but you know what Nick is capable of and you know that you can be there for days. So how are you preparing for yourself?
Yes. So really preparing with food is really essential. Because even from the earliest races that and I have done that are just, distance for distance and not for time or anything,
Mm-hmm.
um, I learned that uh, if you're just waiting around all day, you need to eat still, even if it's an 8 hour thing, like you should still have lunch prepared or something to take care of yourself. And then as distances got longer, 24 hours, it's like, okay, we need breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I just wasn't prepared in those days. I would be eating snacks here and there. I wouldn't have proper kind of meals for myself. And I just noticed my energy was poor. And I wouldn't be cranky, so to say, because there'd be no one to be cranky to or with. But like internally, I would be like, just kind of like mopey a little bit. And so as I started like, okay, let me prepare for these smaller races and actually get meals and things that I'm excited to eat. I noticed like, okay, I have something to look forward to. I'm not just bored and I have energy because I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually getting proper food, not just kind of Oreos and chips and things that he was eating.
Yep, yep.
So I would say that's the biggest one is just preparing foods for yourself that you know that you're going to like and that you look forward to and kind of treat your time out there, kind of have structure too. I do feel like you are burning probably more calories than just a standard like Monday, just from being outside in the elements and you're doing small tasks, you're constantly moving brain function,
Mm-hmm.
um, constantly kind of thinking and planning ahead. Um, so I feel like I'm constantly eating, but what I'm eating is at least like not gonna make me feel terrible. So I would say that's the biggest one. Um, yeah, sprinkle things in for you to do for yourself, whether it's going for a walk around wherever you're at. Take naps, like actually rest and sleep, especially during the backyards. You're not going to get the 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. sleep. It's
Yep.
going to be very broken. So honestly, I start banking sleep as soon as I can. Even the first day, if I can get a nap in at 2 p.m. and then sprinkle them throughout, I know I'm kind of banking energy earlier. That way by, the third night, I'm not as depleted. So just
Mm-hmm.
trying to keep a routine, um, you know, change clothes, kind of keep up with your routine, brushing teeth, kind of brush your hair, put on sunscreen, things that make you feel fresh or feel like yourself. I would say those are really good things as a crew member, to kind of stay on top of as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, in terms of your napping,
Mhm.
I feel like Nick is very consistent with when he's coming in each yard. Is that correct?
Mhm.
So it's pretty easy to figure out how long you're gonna nap, how much time you need to get stuff ready for him. Are
Mhm.
you are you getting everything ready as soon as they leave for the yard and then taking a nap, or what's your order? Like what does your routine look like?
Yes. So it depends what he needs, but typically if it's nutrition, like his making his nutrition,
Mm-hmm.
I'll make that first and then I'll go off and do whatever I need to, or then I'll rest. If I need to make him hot food, then I will make his nutrition, take my rest, and then like wake up 10 minutes earlier to make his hot food.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because and it also depends on what it is. Like I don't want it to be too hot either. So if it's something that
Right.
is going to be potentially too hot, I'll make it earlier. But if it's something quick that I can make right before, or he wants it to be a little bit warm, then I'll kind of take 20 minutes in the middle and then just have the remaining time to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just interesting with how everyone has their own setup and the order that everyone does everything in. And it kind of takes trial and error too to figure out what is going to work best for you at the race too.
Yes, and that's one thing I acknowledge is that everyone really is different. And so if you ask people to crew with you, just understanding that they might do things a little bit differently too, and just
Yeah.
kind of being okay with that. It will all get done.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the runner and the crew relationship. When a runner has decided, okay, this is my crew, what, in your opinion, should that runner be communicating to their crew before race day?
Before race day, I would say just general rules about what this race is structured. I I feel like Nick is really spoiled in the sense that he has me to really lean on because it's not so much like, okay, this is what we're sharing with them, but it's like we show up and it's kind of what do I already know about Nick?
Yep.
But Nick will share just like the general race information, so we're all on board and that we all have the rules, so we're all aware. Because I know some races can be kind of strict with their rules and we don't want to break those, especially as crew. We don't want to jeopardize our runner,
Right.
who's super excited to do this. So I would say communicating that is really essential.
Yep. Well, and you have the general format of, or the general rules of the backyard, but then some backyards also have their own rules. Like some say you can only have a blanket or a chair, or you can only have hot food or hot drink. So knowing those too is important to communicate with the crew, and it's just interesting looking at each of the races what their rules are.
Yes, yeah, and that's kind of what we saw with this last one, because that's in a state park, and we want them to be able to keep their permit so they can keep doing this for years to come. So
Yes.
just kind of making sure we're all on the same page.
Hmm. In terms of needs, so you know Nick very well, but for the other people who are also crewing him, what are you communicating to them, or what is Nick communicating to them about, like, okay, this is like how I like to be talked to, or this is like how I like to receive food or whatever. Like what are you communicating in terms of what Nick likes?
I guess I've never really had to run into that
Okay.
before. But I will say just kind of delegating tasks like, okay, this is like what I need help with,
Hmm.
and just kind of being honest like with yourself and like what do you need help with? Because it's just like you can't be responsible for everything, and so just kind of be able to delegate things or
Yeah.
just having that feeling like you're supported. And so I think that's kind of how we went about it. And whenever we have other people helping us, like, um, you know, yeah, just kind of like how can you prepare and help too? It's
Hmm.
pretty easy, I would say.
That's I had the feeling doing the podcast with Nick that he's just very laid back, go with the flow, but also very humble at the same time. So it's interesting to get the other side of the story and see how kind of all of the puzzle pieces fit together for his races.
And I do think that is true. Nick is so kind and so easygoing, and I feel like I'm a little bit more direct. And so I feel like I kind of yeah, I feel like I keep the direction going. He just has to go do the thing, and then I'll kind of carry everything on in the back, which is
Yeah,
good.
yeah. So let me ask you this. Has Nick ever crewed you?
Not explicitly.
Okay.
In the 100-hour event, we were doing that together. And so he helped me with some things, like he provided some things, or like he'll carry things for me. But I not like I've had to lean on him to like make things for me and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
timed events are a little bit more leisurely and that it's not as strict on time frame. So,
Right,
uh,
right.
yeah.
Would you want Nick to crew you?
Yes.
Okay. I think you'd be really a good crew member, both from like understanding the logistics of the
Mhm.
races, but then also just like this very cheerful, like positive orb in your space, right? So I think
Mhm.
that'd be really beneficial too.
Yes, yeah. I think he has crewed at one before and he's very organized. And so I think he has really good qualities that would make him a really good crew person.
Yeah, yeah. In terms of the emotional side, the runner has these ups and downs. As a crew member, do you also experience kind of some of those ups and downs during the races
For myself or from him,
for yourself?
I would say yes. Depending on the weather conditions, that will definitely impact your, cheerfulness
Yeah.
or, and like in Michigan, the weather could not have been better. Like the night times were damp and cooler, but kind of expected. Um, but at Summit, it was rainy and it was wet, and trying to stay on top of all of that, it can be exhausting because you're trying to keep water out when you're outside.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I feel like I have had ups and downs, but just trying to stay as even as possible because we can't control elements. And ultimately, we decided to be there. So it's just
Yep.
like I don't want my emotions to be reflected because Nick will kind of perceive that and
Yeah.
will internalize that, kind of the same thing back to, um, he doesn't want any crew people or people he asked to be out there to feel like guilty or, they don't want to be out there.
Yeah.
Um, which ultimately isn't the case. It just kind of, it is hard. Um, it's not an easy thing just to be outside and,
Yeah.
um, yeah, so yeah, I've had ups and downs, but it's not anything to where it's like, oh, I will never do this again. You know, yeah.
We can't control the weather, but we're also not hoping for a repeat of last year's weather for bigs, correct?
Yes, 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 always.
So, what advice do you have for crew members who are watching a family member or a friend do something really hard? Like you can see that they are hurting in this moment. What advice do you have for them?
Um, I would really just say like, he's excited that you're here and get to witness what he's doing. He will be okay.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and that, he's like you should be proud of him because like, you helped get him here in a way, because whether it's a family or friend, like we've had just so much support and um, you know, Nick's like everyone's always believed in Nick and also in myself. So it's just like I feel like that's pretty applicable for a lot of runners. Like your friends and family definitely believe in you. And so I would say just like remember that you believe in him and um that he's got it and know
Yeah,
that. Hmm.
I love that. What are some things that you wish runners understood better about their bodies when it comes to training for an ultra, but then also being out there for hours or days?
Yeah, yeah. And then so people who have done backyard ultras and have gone really far distances, I'm sure they know this a lot better than people who are newer to it, but I want people to know that their bodies are capable of so much more and the bodies are just so strong. And I truly do believe it's the mind that gives out before the body. And so just kind of listening to your body, but understanding, and it's so much harder when you don't have that training of is this pull just a muscle? Like, is it just tight? Is it sore?
Hmm.
Or is it something scarier? Um, but understand that your body can do so much for you.
I love that. And I think it's such valuable advice, and it goes back to it goes back to the mind telling yourself like, okay, the mind is speaking for the body right now, and the body is so much stronger and can go so much further. So just kind of being present in the moment and taking it 1 hour at a time to figure out like, okay, let's just get through this low spot right now.
Hmm. And that's really where training does, that's where it pays off. That's where everything is happening. Because without stressing your body during those harder training blocks, you wouldn't be able to see how far you truly can go in a race.
Yeah. Yeah. So thinking about yours and Nick's relationship, do you separate wife from crew during the race? Are you only a crew member? Are those two not inseparable in the moment?
I don't think they're inseparable because I feel like, I'm his loved one out there.
Mm-hmm.
If he had other loved ones out there, he'd be doing it for us. But, I think it makes him excited to see me there, and, it just cheers him up. And so I feel like if it was just a friend who was in my role, you have love for your friend, but it's just different than
Yeah.
like for a spouse. So
Yeah.
I think they definitely do go hand in hand. Um, yeah.
Another question about the relationship. So my husband loves to analyze things as soon as they're done. And when you think about races, whether they went well or especially when they didn't go as you wanted to, it's very easy to jump in and analyze what went wrong immediately, right? After a race, do you guys give it space and give it time before you talk about it, or are you talking about the race on your drive home?
Um, Sometimes it's very obvious to see what went wrong. And so when it is more obvious, um, we'll just kind of just discuss it. It's like, okay, it's like, well, there's no secret there.
Yeah.
But when it's maybe a little bit more subtle, it's like, okay, what went wrong, or what went really well for us and we didn't realize it. Maybe it'll take a week for us to actually finally get there, but
Mm-hmm.
we'll kind of I'll wait for him, like when he's ready to talk about it. Um, he'll bring it up, but it's pretty quickly, but it's not like I'm over analyzing like, okay, you need to do this, this, and that next time. But just having recommendations like, no, this was really good. I really like this. And I think it's all about delivery too. If
Yeah.
you're coming with bad news, no one wants to hear that when they're down. So just I feel like trying to talk about everything that went right initially is really good before getting into the what went wrong.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and those what went wrong is appears to be so much bigger, right? Even though it could be one thing and all these other things went well, those things tend to be put to the side. So I love that you focus on those things first.
Mhm. And that's I feel like that's kind of how we always been. But and maybe that's good that I heard that and like that because sometimes I feel like I'm too direct or too firm with him, and so it's like seeing that being positive and always having that kind of positive outlook first
Yeah.
is how I show my compassion and not just being like that was bad.
So let's talk about the 100-hour race that you participated in for a little bit. Okay, so let me back up. What made you decide to sign up for this 100-hour race? And what were your goals going into it?
Yeah, back to kind of Nick learned about it. He signed up for it and I was like, "Well, I'm gonna be out there too." So, I think he paid for me to sign up too. So I was like, "Oh my gosh." But yeah, so he signed me up essentially. And I wanted to be. I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be out there anyway, so might as well." Um and his rationale was he was trying to go as far for like Cocodona to kind of train for that, but I feel like
Hmm.
he was also trying to stimulate some backyard kind of scenarios too. But my goal with that was just to break 100 miles. Like I had never gone that far, and I was like, oh, it sounds like a good um, kind of opportunity to do that. And that was kind of it for me. And anything extra was like just like a bonus.
Yeah. And you surpassed that 100, right? You were what, 130 or something?
Mm-hmm.
Which is
Yeah.
awesome. I was watching the stories that you had saved to your profile, and you looked really cold out there at one point.
Yes, it was very bad wind because it was February, and luckily it
Okay.
was not one of the freezing Februarys that we've had here in Texas, but it
Yeah.
was still very windy and it was cold.
So, what did you learn about yourself during that time, during the race?
For myself as a runner, the biggest thing I learned about was nutrition, because I go up to an aid station and they have all these different options, and
Yeah.
you want the cookies, you want the chips, they look so fun. I've earned it, is what they say. And I noticed anytime, or like the cup of noodles, anytime I had like a quick carb, um, I like the next lap I'd be feeling sluggish and tired again. And then I would go try the trail mix. I'd try a nut or something. And then we also packed some like yogurt, and I made quinoa. So I had my better foods. And
Hmm.
I just noticed my energy, like I would be able to go, it was like literally 10 miles, like I'd feel more fresh. Whereas when I had the quicker carbs, I'd go for a mile and I'd be like, I need more food.
Hmm.
And so that was the biggest thing I learned about myself. And that kind of solidified what I felt at just by crewing Nick. Because in the earlier days, like truly, I'd be eating off of that, the aid station food. And I would just come back home with that. I'd be like, oh, my back is sore and all this and that. And I'm like, I'm not even running. I have no reason to be out here hurting. And so the earlier races were the big catalyst for me understanding I needed to bring my own food. The 100 hour really solidified in how much food influences my body specifically.
Hmm.
Everyone has different needs when it comes to nutrition,
Yeah.
but I feel like whole foods is a lot better for myself. And I feel like Nick too. I think that's how we do it better. So that was the biggest thing I learned. And then also learning that how much my body can push. Because the whole time, like I had like my Achilles was hurting and pulling, and I was like, oh my gosh, this burns. But like I knew that like, okay, it's not gonna rip off. I'm okay. And I just kind of like learning that and feeling that
Hmm.
was really essential for me to be like, no, the body is so, so strong.
Yeah. Was there any point in time where you were questioning whether you could continue on, and you worked through that area of like, no, I'm not done, but I really thought that I was?
It was harder when there was a lot of time on the clock still, like 60 to 80 hours into it. I was like, wow, I could just rest a lot more. But then, I kept pushing and I kept going. Um, but it was right when it was like, I guess like maybe like 85 hours, 90 hours left, or like I guess like 10 hours left. And it's like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm really close to like I've surpassed 100. Like, how much far can I go? Can I still get like 150? What's the next benchmarker? So it's like I feel like that's kind of motivating, but when you have so much time, it's
Yeah.
like you get a lull. And
Yeah.
so I feel like that's something to be mindful as a runner is just like even though there's a lot of time on the clock, depending on what your goal is, like I feel like you can push it.
Yeah. So you have not done a backyard yourself, correct?
Mm-mm.
Can you think of any way that runners can apply that concept of, there's no set finish line, and a lot of times, even in the first 24 hours, you often hear how the first 24 hours can be the hardest, and runners get in their head about, gosh, like we're only 10 hours in, and I know I have to run so much further. Like if you think about Nick's performances, 63, 65 hours, like that's a lot of time in between those. Do you have any insight into how to kind of get through that messy middle without thinking like there's so much time left?
Yes, and that must be really hard for those runners because it's the same course, and I'm sure that gets really monotonous. So the biggest thing I would be is like, what can I look forward to next? Whether it's a mileage goal, a time goal, whether it's like a physical like 12 or 24-hour goal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's like, what's the next milestone? And then also even like going back to things that you can do at the campsite is what food, like looking forward to your next favorite food or your treat, your snickerdoodle cookie. I can have this in two more loops, things like that, or it's like nighttime comes around and I know I get hot food. So having things built in that you can look forward to will really
Mm-hmm.
like not make you feel like, oh, how much longer? It's like, well, how much longer till I get this?
Yeah.
So trying to build in those rewards, I think, is really nice. And then again, keeping that routine again with, trying to get like brushing teeth, changing clothes, making yourself feel fresh again, I feel like resets the clock dramatically with how you feel.
Yeah. Yeah. Has Nick ever taken a shower during a race?
Not not like explicitly,
Okay.
just like small little towel
Yeah.
um rinses, but that's something that we might try out a little bit more, especially if he's gonna go multiple days.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he is. He is.
Yes, yes, it's exactly right.
No pressure, Nick, but you are.
Yes, yes. So, and I think the biggest thing to that too is like he didn't get too dirty in Michigan.
Okay.
The course was dry. He was sweaty, but it wasn't like a sticky sweaty. It was
Mm-hmm.
just kind of like, yeah, it wasn't like super salty. So it's like, yeah, he hasn't truly had that need to feel like, okay. I was really expecting him to feel dirtier, but no, he looked really, really clean still.
That helps a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
So we just got to talk about it a little bit. What does it mean for you to watch Nick go from summit to winning Ode to representing Team USA at Bigs in October?
Yeah, it's really surreal. I really asked Nick, I said, Nick, did you ever see yourself doing anything like this? And he said, yeah, this was my goal. Like, I said, for how long? He was like, since 2021. I said, what? I did not know that. So it's really surreal, like being in this position because it's like I've seen all the hard work that Nick and myself we have done together and how much we've just
Mm-hmm.
grown as people. And it's awesome to see everything that he's put in, day out really come through. When he signed up for Summit, we truly thought that was his to win. But seeing the other talent out there and then kind of how he reformatted to train for Ode, it's like, okay, that was not his to win. He had so much to learn and grow still. And then
Mm-hmm.
seeing him show up for Odes was, I was like that. He looked like a different person standing at that start line and he looked really great. And so it was so exciting to witness, be like, Nick's gonna do it. Nick is gonna do it. And Nick did it. And it was really surreal. Like, oh my gosh, like what am I looking at? Who am I looking at? And, it was really cool.
It sounds like a really fun experience, just the journey itself too, and then having everything come to fruition on race day or race weekend, race days.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what are you most excited about um, for Bigs?
I would say like seeing the people that we've met already again, because it's such a small community
Yeah.
and uh and just getting to be around those connections again and supporting people. I'm really excited to see how we all work together as one USA team.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's so important. And it's just kind of like with any races, like I'm there, I have extra stuff. I'm willing to help people at any race, no matter the size or distance. Um, and I feel like I'm just one person, so people don't know, hey, go to her, she can help you. You know, but I'm kind of excited to be in a smaller setting because we can all kind of lean on each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of know like our collective goals. Sometimes
Yeah.
when you're other races with different distances, you don't know who's out there
Right.
for this distance or that distance. And so yeah, it's like we all have the same collective goal, and I'm excited to be there and be a resource for people, and just kind of meet new people and hang out.
Yeah. And it's such a strong team with what's put together so far. So I'm just really excited to watch and just follow everyone's training as they go leading up to October.
Yes, yes, and I'm really hope I can share just as much as I shared in Michigan. The biggest thing I'm nervous about is service,
Yeah.
but I really do plan to share as much as I can.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're the crew member, we talk a lot about going one more. What does one more mean to you?
Really, just making it just one more hour with them, like I feel like I have a lot. Um, I feel like I can project a lot more for them because I have more energy,
Mm-hmm.
I'm more fresh. And so um I I I don't have an end goal. He might start to feel the end coming, but I feel like, you know, just we need to make it one more. Just I don't want to overwhelm him, but just trying to make sure he's out there every time, just lining up, because that's one thing we've always, with Summit, we were just like, okay, we're gonna quit in the middle. We're not gonna line up, or we're not gonna withdraw
Yeah.
early either. So just ensuring that he lines up every time and making sure our camp is organized and efficient enough to keep that dream going, because once your camp starts to crumble and the energy starts to diminish, that's truly going to reflect on your runner too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So we've been talking a lot about support during the race, and we touched on how you and Nick support each other outside of the race, like during everyday life. What advice do you have for a spouse who has their spouse running these big races, but they're not a runner, right? So they don't quite understand all of like what they're actually going through. Um, what advice do you have to support them?
Honestly, anytime I see a spouse that's out there, especially spouses that are not runners, they just, I'm like, I'm so glad you're out here. Like, that's incredible that you can just blindly encourage your partner, because
Mm-hmm.
that's incredible enough. And honestly, just by having their support, even if they don't understand what their partner is doing, I feel like that encourages them to keep going and go even further, because they can bring it together as like a family thing. So it's just like someone who is not a runner but is excited to be out there. I think just keep that energy up, and that's exciting for you to kind of see, and you will learn a lot as you're out there, and everyone
Yes.
there on just the sidelines, so helpful, so resourceful, so kind. People are excited to see people out there, and they'll help you, and even just like observe what they have in their tent. I asked our the assist for Nick's race,
Yeah.
his name was Dave, and his wife's or his fiance's name was Elizabeth. And so I just talked to her. I said, hey, like, what is this log you have going on? And just kind of seeing what they do and what works for them. And everyone, they'll share. It's not like anything's a secret. You can come
Right.
look in my tent. And so
I think looking around, like walking around camp and looking at all the setups is so much fun. You get so many different ideas,
Mhm.
and everyone thinks about things differently too. So um, you've you've probably never thought of the way that Sally has set up her tent, and it
Mhm.
gives you a unique perspective of maybe what you can switch up to make yours more efficient or better.
Yeah, and some people really do come with like creativity. Like people will have like the twinkle lights, or they'll
Hmm.
have like a banner or a flag, something that really makes it special for them.
Yeah.
And I think that's important too. Like as a runner, bring things that are going to make you excited, that to come back and feel comfortable and just motivate you. Because I think those twinkle lights really are pretty.
Yes.
And so it really makes it feel more magical at nighttime. And that could be the true distance, or the difference between surviving the night and like not making it through the night. So do the
Yeah.
things that make you happy, and it will really pay off.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, I have two last questions for you, but is there anything that we didn't cover that you want to talk about?
I would say really stay organized, and keep your kind of space very clean. Because kind of back to everything else, when kind of like the disharmony is happening at camp base, I
Hmm.
feel like the runner can feel that.
Yeah.
Whether it's, you're mentally struggling with the elements happening outside, if even if you're not being verbal about it, it can kind of come across with maybe you hand them the water bottle aggressive or something. It's the small things that you don't think about, but they might perceive as, oh no, they're not happy.
Right.
And so just making sure you're doing things organized, and so you can kind of keep your space clean, and it's not something you're going to catch up on hours later. So I would say that's the biggest thing, reorganizing your camp. I've At Summit, we started camp a certain way, and then because the rain kind of came in, I had to move the table from one edge to the next to keep it dry. And honestly, it made camp a lot better. It made it more organized. And Nick said, "Hey, I like this setup a lot better." So reorganize halfway through if you think something can be better. And just, you don't have to stay set. Kind of make it your own. Mhm.
Right. And then you actually moved your setup, correct?
That's right. And I've done that a couple of times at Nick's races, because as people
Okay.
like leave the event, it's just better for ease of myself and for him.
Yeah.
So that's not just make sure it's all good with kind of the race director or whoever you need to.
Hmm.
Make sure you're not in someone's way, but do it. Even if you're just moving a chair up, I've
Yeah.
done that too. Like at other Nick's race, maybe we don't have a canopy, and we just have like a campsite. Just bringing your chair up, that way he doesn't have to come back and forth. That's
Yeah.
totally fine. Hmm.
It makes such a difference as you get further into the race too. Like that minute that it takes to go back and forth counts.
Yes.
So I've talked to a lot of crew members who have a couple items that they need for themselves at the race. Is there one item that you have to have with you when you're crewing, Nick?
I Food. It's really it. I would say I've packed a book, never touched it. Um, I pack small things. I've packed games thinking I'll play with the other people,
Yeah.
but no, you can always go talk to someone and they'll always hang out with you. Um, yeah, as long as you are fed and happy, or as long as I'm fed and happy, I'm
Yes.
good to go. Um, yeah, I've packed other things, and I just don't touch it.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I've done the same where I've packed a book and I have not touched it at all. And it's like, what was I thinking? Like, I would rather just talk to people out there and make sure that everything is in order instead of reading my book and then scrambling afterwards.
Mhm. Yeah.
And my second question for you is for those runners who are hesitant to ask someone to crew for them, what advice do you have for them to ask for a crew?
Yeah. That's something we really ran into going to Michigan. That was like our, I don't want to say the biggest ask. We've asked people to go to Cocodona for us. Um, but I'll just say like, hey, like just ask to see if they're willing to come, if they have that time, if they want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
We understand, and I'm sure everyone understands that it's a big commitment. So it's just like being very communicative whenever you ask someone to come out and crew for you, because whether, just being like flexible with them too, and working with them if you truly want them to be out there with you. Working with them like, hey, how can we help you get out there? Once you're out there, we'll take care of you. Just so that gateway to entry is a lot lower for them
Mm-hmm.
if you truly want them to be out there, and they can't do it, or maybe they can't do it for the whole time. Be like, any time is appreciative. Um, and so yeah, I would just say like ask your people that you want to help, or have help you, and then just really keep that communication open and see like what works for them and how you can help them there, because not only are they coming to help you, but you really should kind of help them and kind of
Mm-hmm.
pay that back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely. Veronica, thank you so much for joining me today. Can you tell our listeners how they can follow you?
Yeah, I am on Instagram. My handle is Dr. Veronica Pardo. I'm pretty present on Instagram. You can give me a direct message if you want to have any questions, or I'm on Strava. They have the messaging now. I'm on Strava and I go on it regularly, but I've yet to kind of use that as a social network platform. But you can follow me there and reach out too.
Awesome. I'll make sure to get those links from you and include those in the show notes for anyone who is interested. But again, thank you so much for joining me and giving us a look into what happens on the other side of the course, the people who are watching and supporting and problem solving and helping your runner find that next loop and to continue to go just one more hour. So for our listeners, whether you are the runner or you're the person at camp waiting for them to come back, ultras are rarely a solo effort, and sometimes it takes like a whole team to go one more, right? But just remember that it's a team effort, and there's so much that goes into it, and you are providing so much value to your runner when you support them out there on the course at the race. So thank you again for listening, and until next time, just go one more hour. Thanks for tuning in to One More Hour. If you enjoyed this episode, hit follow so you don't miss the next yard. And share it with a runner who loves pushing their limits. I'd love to hear your own stories of going one more. Connect with me on Instagram at the One More Hour Podcast. And if you could leave a quick review, it'll help more runners find the show and keep going when they want to stop. Until next time, just go one more hour.